How are you?
I'm glad that I can introduce myself. I'm a humanitarian aid worker. Once I made a mistake of asking my friend to introduce me, and he introduced me as humanitarian worker with AIDS. So I'm very careful now, and I'm glad that I'm given the opportunity to introduce myself. I'm just about your age. I'm 20 years old, but I celebrated my 20th birthday for the 42nd time. So I can identify with you guys, and then I was your age, not many decades ago, okay? But I can tell you this, as you are sitting there, I just pictured myself about 42 years ago. I was in the university, and I was looking out into the world. And I said to myself, I'm going to take this world. I'm going to be rich. I'm going to be famous. I'm going to do everything. I'm going to try and get the best education, and I'm going to rock this world. How many of you feel that way? But guys, there is a lot more than that, which I discovered eventually. Because as we look at the world, if you're already here, sitting here, I know you have a tremendous future. Probably some of you are going to become politicians, economists, social workers, various types of profession. And you're going to impact different people and different communities. But I want to say to you, it's more than that. It's more than just getting a good education. It's more than getting rich. How many of you, at the age of 18, 19, like me, said, by the age of 21, I'm going to make my first $1 million. All right? I've so far seen my first million rupiah. Far from $1 million. And that's the aspiration young people have. And that's a good aspiration. But I want to say to you that HAND came out of a very simple decision to help people who cannot help themselves. It's so easy sometimes to help people who can't help themselves, or people, if we help, they will in return help us. So we invest in people who in return can do something for us. But HAND initially started as a humanitarian assistance network, not an organization, network for disaster. And after a while, we realized that disaster alone was not sufficient, because after the disaster, we brought in the relief, we brought in all kinds of help, and it was a bottomless pit. You can keep giving and giving and giving, and it doesn't solve the problem. We had to eventually kick into development, reconstruction, rehabilitation, to help people to get back into their feet. Because if people are dependent on you, then they will lose their dignity. But if you can give people a skill, a means to live for themselves and to survive and to fend for themselves, they can grow with dignity. And so from disaster, we moved to development. And we started very simply with 3 of us sitting in a coffee shop, cafe, and talking. And we said that, there's so many disasters. And how many of you know that Indonesia is famous for disasters? It is called, they have the supermarket for disaster. You name it, we have it. Right? And the fact is that we are in the ring of fire, and not just Indonesia, but throughout Asia. There were so many disasters. And often people get tired after a while of just giving aid and helping by giving food or whatever it is. Eventually people get tired, they call it donor fatigue. And so we decided as a network to move out of just helping disaster, which we did. Like for example, we were in Nepal. I just came back from Nepal this morning.
Yeah, sorry, will you please tell us about this picture actually?
This picture is the team that I took, 3 from Indonesia, 2 from Singapore, and the other 3 of them are Nepalese partners that we work with.
Which one is Nepalese?
The first 2 here, green and red, and then at the extreme other right. That is from Nepal, on the very green. And from Indonesia, we have the 3 gentlemen there. Right here. The son, these 3. And then that's me with one other girl who I happened to take this photo. She was from Singapore. We came together, we know each other, because our team is friends working with friends. Guys, it's important that we work with friends, partners. Why make yourself miserable working with people you cannot get along? You only end up pulling your hair, you only end up hurting each other, you only end up being frustrated with them and they being frustrated with you. So relationships are absolutely important. Friends, working with friends. So we seek out friends, we seek out partners, and those guys are all our friends.
Sir, actually, what's your motivation or what's your inspiration that inspire you a lot to work in humanitarian?
Okay, basically the word humanitarian answers the question. It's people. To me, more than anything else, more than any other commodity in the world, people are the most precious and the most expensive commodity. Not based on their riches, not based on their popularity, not based on where they are standing in community, but every human life is precious and important and can make a difference in the community.
So what happened in Nepal recently? How about the disaster?
Sorry?
How about the disaster in Nepal?
Nepal has a tremendous disaster because they've never experienced in this magnitude. In fact, some of them believe it is more than 7.9. And there's already almost 8,000 casualties. Many areas, they have yet to find villages because it is so isolated and there's no access to get to these people. And many of them are actually trapped or there's nobody can reach them because they are so far out. And it's a mountainous region. If you've been to Nepal, it's not easy to access that place. So that's where we are at Nepal. And right now, aid is flowing in. But as usual, one of the frustration as an aid worker I find is that, of course, authorities try to slow down our process. The people suffering, the people in need, but yet often they try to hold things back. And so aid slows down, and many people, especially outside of Kathmandu, Kathmandu is the capital of Nepal, which has got a lot of help and assistance from my perspective. So we at hand decided to go away from the capital, and we traveled about almost 200 kilometers outside to the west, 157 and another 47 through bumpy road, dusty road. And finally when we reached the destination, we had to hike for 4 hours. And that's no joke for an old man like me, believe me.
Sorry. What happened with this woman actually?
This woman is one of the places that we visited where we are looking at reconstruction of homes. She lost everything. She has lost all the things that she had worked for in her life, and all she has is herself and this pile of rubble. And you can look at her, in her eyes there's a sense of sadness. You know, Nepalis are beautiful people. Even in pain and suffering they will smile. But look into her eyes right now. You see that pain, the sadness. She lost everything, folks. Can you imagine? One day if you go home, I put myself in the same position, and suddenly I lose everything. My family, my home, my income, everything disappears because they are farmers or even they have sometimes cattle. They lose everything. You come back to zero, nil. How would you feel? Very alone, I can tell you. Yes, go ahead, brother. Any more questions?
Can we open the Q&A session for your vision? Okay, is there any, ada pertanyaan dari teman-teman tentang apa yang dilakukan oleh Pak Inban dengan Hands Project-nya dan juga apa yang beliau lakukan akhir-akhir ini di Nepal dan bagaimana proyek sosial ini bisa terus hidup berkelanjutan? Any question from you guys?
Yes.
Okay, satu. Is there any other microphone for this man with the black jacket?
Ya, berarti bisa datang ke depan mungkin.
Atau mungkin kalau suaranya cukup keras seperti saya bisa jadi.
Oke, terima kasih atas kesempatannya untuk bertanya. Perkenalkan, nama saya Alex dari ITS. Saya juga bergerak di bidang yang kemarin saya bentuk sama teman saya di ITS, yaitu merearrange kembali yaitu proyek Mahagana, yaitu mahasiswa tanggap bencana. Di mana kemarin kami juga mendapatkan beberapa ilmu dari Humanitarian Forum Indonesia dan Oxfam, di mana di situ adalah kita diberikan arahan bagaimana kita memanajemen diri pribadi untuk bisa memberikan manfaat kepada yang terdampak di bencana. Nah, yang ingin saya tanyakan kepada Pak Caldwell yaitu bagaimana Bapak di sana memberikan istilahnya setelah bencana, yaitu proses pasca bencananya itu seperti apa untuk mengembalikan kemampuan orang-orang yang berada di sana untuk bisa kembali hidup normal ketika setelah bencana. Itu aja.
It's all about how to recover the victim of the disaster in Nepal?
Okay. It begins with volunteers. We train ourselves. We have a very stringent training program, like what we have in the course that we attended. And there are many good organizations doing great work. And you have to, first of all, as a volunteer, train yourself. And when you go there, what we did was we called what we call rapid village assessment. We assess the village and see what are the basic needs, the real needs of the community, and how we can bring about a long-term solution of reconstruction. I'm not sure if I'm answering the question because I see some smiling faces. Am I shooting the moon? Or maybe I'm speaking here. I hope I'm answering your question. Is that what he's asking for, sir? Yeah. Okay. So it is a process that we have to go. That's why the team that went up with me, we did a survey. We studied the people, we looked at the condition, we brought relief, we brought blankets, we brought tents, because many of them are living in cow sheds, many of them are sleeping in broken buildings and outside. And we went there and built a tent and we stayed there and we did a survey of the people. We brought the whole community out. They came out and they talked to us and we asked them, what are your plans for the future? And they said, we don't know. We have no plans. We have no money, we have lost everything, and we don't know where to go from here. But the number one need really right now is houses. Because the rainy season is coming in July and it's very severe. Many of them are going to suffer even more. And so right now we're trying very hard for the small group of people, we are trying to bring some help in terms of housing.
Okay, we still have one slot for one more question. Okay, would you please come forward to ask your question? Ada microphone lagi. Untuk masnya yang di belakang yang pakai kaos.
Halo, setengah jam.
Oh ya.
Pinter deh.
Mau tanya aja sih, kan tadi disebut kalau bencana kebutuhan utamanya kan rumah.
Ya.
Yang saya lihat kalau di teman-teman sekitar yang pernah alami bencana juga, salah satu kebutuhan utamanya itu emosi. Jadi bisa nggak ceritakan sedikit kira-kira dari pengalaman selama ini kita supaya menanggapi kebutuhan utamanya mereka, emosi tadi, ada cara-cara khusus apa atau kadang kita berusaha menghibur pun ya kelihatan mereka masih tetap alone tadi, ada tips and tricks?
Okay, in terms of post disaster care, yes, a lot of them go through trauma, and different people, different age, according to their area, they go through some trauma. What we do is that we recognize that hand is severely limited. We don't have all the expertise. We need to rely on faith-based organizations. That means other religious groups or people who are specialized in counseling who can come. And some of the counseling has to be very specialized because children. Most of the children actually go through trauma. And I just spoke to Singapore Red Cross a few days ago. And I said, do you have any counseling for children? And he said, we have one person who helps the children to do drawings. Through drawing, they actually help them to talk about the trauma and help them to overcome trauma. Now, young people also go through a lot of trauma. And you need specialized people in that category that age. Some of them literally saw their family die. Their mother, their father, or their aged parent, or a sister or brother die. Now, that is very, very traumatic. And we are not experts, in psychology, or even in counseling, we acknowledge that we need the help of others. That's why we are a network. We call ourselves a network because we cannot do it alone. We need you. We need other organizations. We need everyone, every single person who is willing and available to help us, to help the people who are in need. I hope I answered the question, sir. Thank you.